Hello guys, this is Barbatoast here. This is not my usual video, but it's something I've been really passionate about because this is kind of about me, you know. As you can see in the title, I'm talking about Tourette syndrome and how it sort of affected me, my experiences, whatnot, to hopefully give, people, you as the viewer, some potential guidance on what you could do for a potential loved one, or a loved one, family member, yourself even. Um, which I have to, disclaimer, I am not a doctor by any means, so take this with a grain of salt. Um, I even with having Tourette's, I still don't know everything there is about everything. I'm just going to basically list out some of my personal experiences to hopefully give you sort of a point of view and a perspective on someone with Tourette's that has, I guess, outgrew and sort of lived up, grew up, as a, 21-year-old, I don't know. But needless to say, I am not a doctor by any means. I'm not a certified physician or anything, so if you go to a physician or a doctor or some professional, they may say otherwise. So just take this with a grain of salt. That's all I ask. So let's start with explaining what Tourette's is. According to Google, Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder characterized by involuntary tics and vocalizations and often compulsive utterances of obscenities. What Google doesn't tell you is that the compulsive utterance of obscenities is a very, very small portion of the Tourette's population. That is what you would call a stereotype. But it does happen. It's not necessarily uncommon, but it's not really common either. For example, there's a comedian by the name of Samuel J. Comroe. He was on America's Got Talent, I want to say last year. He made it in the top. He made it in the finals. He is a comedian with Tourette syndrome.
Yeah. What advice would I give to somebody who has Tourette's? Your child just found out. Oh, I feel like you're asking for somebody specifically. Oh, okay. They just got diagnosed? How old are they? Oh shit, he got diagnosed hella late. He's just had that for like 20 years and everyone's like, oh, that's just Kyle, that's what he does. That's Kyle, he's always dancing around and shit. He loves to break dance at funerals, there he goes.
He does have a YouTube channel, Samuel J. Comroe, or just look him up on, YouTube for, America's Got Talent. He's a pretty cool comedian. I like watching his stuff. Now, his tics are on the smaller end. He blinks his eyes sometimes, like he does, closes his eyes like that. Now, I don't really do that. I used to. And he's funny. But anyway, I'm going off into a rabbit hole here. So, I would consider Tourette syndrome like a worse end and somewhat good end. I mean, you're still gonna it's like a variety. Sometimes you have like, minor end Tourette's where it's just like super, super subtle, nothing really too crazy. And the best way to describe it actually, but like on the worst end, it's like, insane Tourette syndrome, like swearing, on the rarer sense, like, saying random shit. I don't know. Random stuff, they're doing all sorts of things like, arm movements, stuff like that. That's the one I typically do now. For example, another example, a streamer by the name of Sweet Anita, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She is one of the worst cases I've ever seen with her Tourette syndrome.
Beautiful.
Meow. Oh, Anita! Look at my
Sorry, guys. There is a particular mod who will know exactly where that tick came from. Thanks for that, dude. Anita will die, but her Twitch streams will live on. Fuck. I had literally never thought of that until until now. And
But she's fine with it. She rolls with it, which is fine. That's what you probably should do. But man, I cannot watch her because every single time I watch her, that feeling like she basically makes her stuff what she does in with other people with Tourette syndrome. She makes me want to tick. It hurts watching. So like, if you are watching this video who has Tourette's, keep that in mind. Tourette syndrome is one of those things I would consider it like an analogy. Like if you were trying to get off of smoking, like nicotine or whatever. I don't care. I don't know. I don't do that shit. But it's like seeing somebody outside smoking and you are just trying to get off of it. And that feeling in the back of your, brain, the craving of you wanting that nicotine and cigarette based off of what you see, smell, I guess feel. I don't know, feeling, and yeah. But Tourette syndrome is a lot like that, in the sense that if you see someone ticking or if you see a person doing a particular thing that is just, I don't know, some motion, I don't know. If you see somebody, you could pick up on that tick and you cannot get rid of it for a while. Like, it's just one of those things. Tourette's is somewhat contagious in the sense that if it's contractable upon other people with Tourette syndrome. So, for example, if you have Tourette's and I have Tourette's, right? And I'm talking about it, and I'm talking about ticks that I do, or if I'm doing ticks, you're probably gonna be ticking in your seat right now. So, or at least that feeling in your head is going to want you to tick. Doesn't matter what it is. Just on the subject of ticking, it's like the fact that if you think about bugs or talk about insects, you feel itchy. It's just that in your head feeling. I don't know how the best way to explain it. And if your child, or if you were diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, you have probably looked into avenues and trying to find like-minded people, aka people that also have Tourette's. So, here's a good option: Tourette syndrome camp. It's the thing. Now, the one gripe that I have about that, and the reason why I never went, is because they have at least in some websites, I can't list off the names like right off the bat of the domain names and whatnot. Some of them, or at least like a good portion of them, have a giant warning label on the website saying your kid, when he comes back from this camp, might have some new ticks. So that is just a warning. So pretty much, you put a bunch of kids with Tourette syndrome together. What the resulting matter is, you get more ticks, essentially. I mean, I'm not gonna gloss over it. You're gonna get the likelihood that your child is gonna have more ticks that are different from what they originally had is, it's there. It's not uncommon. So I never went. I'm like, okay, I have this really bad tick of me snapping my neck. Or at least I had it, and which, leads me to my next point, which is funny because, but I'll make a joke. Tourette syndrome is sexist. Let's be honest here. For some reason, don't ask me how it is. This is what I've been told. This is what it's been explained to me about. Take this with a grain of salt. You may want to consult a doctor to see if that's true. I don't know. I can't confirm nor can I deny that it's true, but that's from what I have been told. Men, guys, boys, you have it easy. After a certain age, you grow out most of your ticks. Like, but women, you got it tough. I'm sorry. Like, you're gonna live with that for the rest of your life. The likelihood that you're gonna grow out of a tick is low, from what I've been told. How it affects me? Well, I grew out of it. At least most of it. I don't really have the major ticks anymore. like I said, you know, some like I used to have a neck tick. But that was back when, like, during middle school. The interesting thing about Tourette syndrome is that symptoms start popping up roughly around 5 to 10 years old. They start popping up. So like, yeah, and it gets really bad during middle school. Like if you don't figure shit out right away, I'm not gonna gloss over it. It's gonna be hell. Uh, if you don't figure out what exactly it is. So on the topic of, like, you know, I'm not gonna really go into detail on advice for this particular video. For example, I have ADHD. And the problem that you know I was told and noticed, you know, throughout years of, you know, my childhood, um, you can't, at least then you couldn't take ADHD medication and then Tourette's medication. Now, when I mean Tourette's medication, there's not really any medication that, like, is solely Tourette's medication, but apparently from what I was told, it's not like it's weird. It's kind of a weird limbo where it's just anti-anxiety medication. I don't know. I have no idea. You may want to confirm that with your a professional license certified. I don't know, doctor. Just talk to your doctor about it. About what avenues you could take. Now, having Tourette syndrome and ADHD is a double-edged sword. From what I was told, you can't have both. You can't take ADHD medication and you can't take Tourette syndrome medication at the same time. Because on one hand, if you take ADHD medication, your Tourette syndrome would be all out of whack. But if you take Tourette syndrome, your ADHD is just there. Like, you can't, you know, ADD or ADHD, doesn't matter either way. Either one. So my advice on how you could possibly do it, I mean, it's all like, depends. But for me, at least, I just lived with ADHD or ADD. It doesn't matter. They're pretty much, they're slightly different, but they're one and the same degree. So I took medication that would limit my Tourette syndrome, or at least reduce some of the symptoms a bit. And you can't cure it. Tourette syndrome, you can never cure it. Like, it's not, I mean, there are, like, medications that you can take. If there was a medication that was, like, you know, that the doctors, you know, were looking into, that we kind of considered, but at the time I was never a huge needles guy. I hated needles at the time. You know, I could not deal with needles. I was a very rambunctious and troublemaking child. I would, you know, I had to be held down as a child. And they would typically put the needle in the back of your neck, and or at least the point. I think from what I understand, they put it in the point of where your the worst tick resides. So, like with me, my neck cracking tick, they would put that right there, and it would reduce. At least they claim it reduces the ticks. Now, I was never a huge fan of that. I just didn't feel like it was necessary. Plus, I didn't like needles at the time, like, you know. But for me, I'm like, I understood at least to some degree that I was going to grow out of it at some point, because that's what I've been told. And, you know, here I am. I kind of do this every now and then, but I don't do the extreme stuff anymore. Like, it's all hand semantics, you know. I'm a filmmaker, I'm an editor. I literally have to type on the keyboard all the time, so that causes a strain on my fingers. So I'm going to be ticking a lot more, but I'd rather deal with that than, you know. And parents, or if you're an adult that's trying to figure out medication, if you got diagnosed really late, I'm sorry. Like, you might as well just not take medication at all. Like, if you're an adult and you're just now getting diagnosed for it, and you had symptoms way back when, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, you could take medication to reduce it if you're that inclined to, but it's expensive. Like, the medication itself, it's really pricey. Like, for a better term, if your doctor does not get on point with some of this stuff, medications will be extremely, and I mean extremely pricey. Like I didn't get diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, I want to say until I can't remember exactly when I was diagnosed. I want to say, based off of my memory, like late elementary school. I can't exactly remember, but we could not get the medication correct because one, I was diagnosed with ADHD before that. Like I want to say, I can't remember exactly, mid elementary school. I can't remember. I just can't. What we all I know is that I was diagnosed with ADHD prior to being diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. So during that time, we could not figure out what medications would work because my parents didn't know what Tourette syndrome was at all. They when we first heard about it, we're like, oh shit, what is this? What can we do to try to resolve this? Because he's running rampant, like being a nuisance out in the world, I don't know, like, so, and it was causing a lot of pain for me. So like, it was just doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, pay after pay. And, we couldn't figure out what was causing it. Now, that's when we figured out when I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome that ADHD, according to from what I heard, it doesn't sit well with, I was taking ADHD medication at the time. So we threw out the ADHD medication and focused on Tourette's, and I just lived with the ADHD. I lived with it. Now, of course, with ADHD, I don't think I had an extreme end. I don't think. I've seen people with really, really bad ADHD, like, for example, I'm talking about Tourette's around, oh, look at there. Yeah, I still have that, but it's mainly a joke to me. So pretty much I want to say during high school when as I started turn my life around as far as, education wise, I took more, I was sort of leaning more towards like getting my shit done on time and making it okay than I did in middle school and elementary school. We switched several doctors. Like we went through, I want to say we went through already like 3 doctors at the time, or at least we went through 3 doctors now, and I'm on my, my most recent doctor that I'll always, I don't think I'll always, he's one of my go-to doctors I think now, unless he like changes fields, I don't know. The doctor, the last doctor I was with, this was back, I want to say 2016, 2015. I want to say somewhere around there. He, I guess, what's the word? Advised to take this special type of DNA test. I don't know exactly what it's called. I'll explain more in a further video about advice. But I'm just putting this out here. This is DNA test that will give you sort of a spreadsheet. I guess it would be called a spreadsheet of like medications that I guess suggestions on what medications to not take or to take, or what could possibly work, but they don't have enough information. Pretty much the DNA test, your DNA has information based off of other data, based off of other medications, and it will tell you how your DNA will break down these medications, from what I understand. Not a certified doctor, not a certified doctor by any means, but my understanding, DNA thing gave me a list of options of medications of 3 little titles to not take. You could probably try, but there's not enough data that is listed for you to, we don't even know if it'll work. Then 3, the data will has like a good chance of working based off of how your body breaks down the medications, and all those medications that I took in prior to this were all in, or at least most of them were in, do not take, and this on the slim chance may work. So that really helped. If you could get that, now I think we got it for free. I can't remember. I'll need to confirm that, but like, if your doctor does have that and he's wanting you to pay for it, or if your insurance will cover it, I don't know. Do it. By any circumstances, this will save you in the long run. Or at least it will reduce the costs that you may have to pay in the near future. Because one, you're going to be switching off medications multiple times, and your insurance is most likely not going to cover all of those switching. I'm no insurance expert, but based off of my experiences, we had to pay out of pocket on certain medications because we had to switch it within a couple weeks. It's insane because they weren't working, or on the worst case, I had an allergic reaction. I don't know, but it was just one of those things where if you can do this DNA test, this will help reduce the cost, or at least narrow down your medication search for you, a family member, or a friend. Just, information, I don't know. Well, that's what happened. Fortunately, we got it figured out, but for a parent with a younger child that has never experienced this before, this will help you in the long run if your doctor or a professional near you that you go to has that capability or has that, option. It's not really a necessary thing, but for medication revolving around ADHD, Tourette syndrome, or any neurological, disorder, this will help you. I highly suggest doing this. Like, it's really good. But yeah, so I am, this was the video on what Tourette's is. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Hopefully I'll have, a video up, later, about, advice of what you or your child or loved one could do. But yeah, that's the video. I am no certified doctor by any means. I can't stress this enough. Talk to your doctor, please. I don't take my word for it. But this is just my personal experiences and, of me expressing my experiences of what Tourette syndrome is to you guys, because it's something that I'm passionate about. Like because I started this video with wanting to talk about it because apparently people still think it's cursing and swearing. So, I mean, yeah. You have any questions? Comment below. If you want to share it, go for it. I mean, I only got 20 subs, so I mean, I'm not really wanting to do this for a living, but here I am. So, yeah.